Being fired. Sorry. Okay.
One of those.
Yeah, yeah. If you've ever had to deal in the service industry, you'll see credit cards that just have extensively long names. It's usually Mongolian or Spanish. In this case, we're going to have a man here named Colin, who also has a series of British names that all kind of float together. I'm Patrick DeMarchi.
Colin Richard.
Yes, so pleasure. We're sitting here in lovely downtown Baltimore. Are we Fells Point area?
Fells Point.
Okay,
Yeah.
love it. Once in a while, you're going to hear a truck go by. We'll just have to edit that out, and no big deal.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of perfect.
Love it. It's like it's not even there. So
Yeah, no,
it's
no, no,
good.
barely there,
It's
barely
good.
there. Anyways, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the guy that I'm going to come to anytime that I've got questions regarding music, anything from the 60s, 70s, history, knowledge of just the Southwest of the United States, and sailing, boats in
Sailing.
general.
Absolutely. If it has to do with adventure, I love it, and I at least want to know as much as I can extensively about it. Not quite as sure, but overlanding, 100%. Sailing, 100%.
For the record, overlanding is basically off-roading with any type of big truck. I didn't know that until I became the owner of a big truck. Someone's like, "Oh, you're gonna go?" When I entered into Canada, the guy was like, "You going overlanding here?" And I was like, "Excuse me." I was like, I'm gonna stay on land the whole time. Yes, sir. You know, dude, that truck raised so many red flags with customs
Of
going
course.
into Canada. I
Yeah.
think it obviously didn't help that it was 2 weeks after the election. They're just like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy looked and his first question, he goes, "So, you got any weapons in here?" And I was like, I mean, does an axe count? Because I have two of them. I was like, oh shit. And meanwhile,
Axes, knives.
yeah, a shovel that looks like I could also just,
Oh,
dig away at anything that I need,
or decapitation.
if that be your choice.
Yeah.
What was
Well,
it?
you think most serial killers are actually only use those type of weapons,
Yeah. No, for
right?
sure, for
So
sure.
they don't use guns.
No,
So
at all.
yeah.
I'm trying to think, do we have a history of anyone who's been a serial killer that was, other than, what was it, the shooter in DC years back? He was using a rifle. Remember, he killed people on
Well,
Home
yeah,
Depot and stuff like
mass
that.
shootings, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
then,
but he was like one person at a time.
that's true.
Remember?
Yeah, he was out of his car like from distance or whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. But
Which, by the way, was a big plot to ultimately just kill his ex-wife.
oh,
Did you ever know that?
I did not know that.
Dude, so essentially he was trying to make his ex-wife look like a random victim of a killing. And so he was killing people leading up to her.
See, that's not very serial killer-esque, though, because that's not
No.
methodical
No.
in, what you desire. Like most serial killers have some, weird fantasy or fetishes around it. But I like how we've digressed into mass murder.
Well, yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Also, don't you, after you're a serial killer, have to be killing the same type of person on a regular basis? Or something about the scenario
Yeah.
has to be consistent, other than the randomness of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Normally, the sadistic nature, they've come up with ways to
Justify what they're doing.
well, not only justification, but how they're going to do it, right? Or, do they pick up hitchhikers? Where do they go? Do they take them back? What drug do they use to knock them out? Or how are they going to get them knocked out? All these kind of weird.
Jack the
weird
Ripper
thing.
was all just prostitutes, right? Or ladies of the
Yep.
night, whatever you want to call that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that term, ladies of the night.
Yeah.
So it's vague.
But it also doesn't constitute anything to do with a pimp.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that, actually.
Right,
That's
yeah.
better. Yeah, because pimps are probably the worst part of prostitution.
I mean, that and the men.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
That you're having,
But I guess the fact that it's one thing to have to go through doing that, which would seem, by some people's standards, immoral. By some people, it's just, physically demeaning, whatever the hell it would be.
Yeah.
But then to also have to share the profit of that with somebody who is completely undeserving, other than whatever random protection they might give you to not get screwed over by the dude. Which I guess is also a legitimate problem.
Well,
There's a reason a pimp exists, I suppose.
yeah,
You know.
which like so many things, if we just legalize it,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to worry about the pimps. You legalize it, have the whomever it may be, guys, gigolos or females, whoever, have them STD tested, things of that nature, because people are going to do it. So at least make
Yeah.
it safe.
Well, at that point, if you could, I mean, I don't know that, if you could essentially Cash App, Venmo, whatever the person that you're, sleeping with, then you don't really have to worry about, someone stealing the money. You're not going to get robbed for your cash. Like, there's a lot of ways that you could just
Do
make
they
that
have
go
one
back
of
in.
the Apple Pay just hanging from their?
I mean, all it takes is a QR code these days. I don't see why that can't be done.
They have. Good if they just had it maybe
Tattooed on
the
them.
thigh.
Yes, you'd have to get that
Right.
redone every now and then, though,
That's
or
true.
stay in great shape.
Yeah.
Motivation. It's like, oh shit, this is now going to Shelly instead of me. Like, this is a problem. I need to do some
Well, you
sit-ups.
notice the difference between prostitutes and escorts, then.
What?
Escorts are normally the women that, because they're high end, because they're like, $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Premium service, go to, rich guy's hotel, or even many of them don't even need the sexual experience. They just want a woman to go out to dinner with, or
arm candy.
yes.
Well, essentially, I think that's the big difference between escort and prostitute. A prostitute, in my mind, automatically implies like sex, but an escort
Within
might just
10
be,
minutes.
like where that is we're going here to do this, and then deal is done. However, with an escort, it would be, well, are you around for the night? We're going to the ball, we're going to this, we're going to that. Yeah. Something I thought of recently was that, can you think about how, at least traditionally, one of women's like power bases is sex. But if men only wanted sex, all prostitutes.
Most of them do.
But if that were the case, or if that were the one currency that mattered the most, well, then all prostitutes you would imagine eventually getting married. Like, wouldn't you just be like, hey, this is like, if good sex was all it took, then you'd be like, oh, well, shit, wouldn't they all just get wrapped up eventually? I mean, wrapped up in a marital sense.
But then most of the time, when do they have that opportunity to go out and date?
Well, no, but I mean, some guy who then uses their services would be like, oh shit, this was so good, I need to like keep this. This is gonna be mine now.
Oh, the guy would
Yeah.
be doing that?
Yeah. Like,
But
if
then
men
the girl
only
would
cared
be
about
like, no way. I mean, you're out here getting
yes, you're
a prostitute.
Yeah, look at how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee that most of the women do not have much, if any, respect for their clients.
I would imagine not.
Right?
Yeah, I would think not.
So I don't think the marriage thing will probably.
That's not happening. So Pretty Woman is probably not the most like realistic scenario in your mind.
Yeah, well,
it's odder that someone that looked like Julia Roberts, like, hadn't been wrapped up by some nice guy earlier in life. She was pretty good looking.
I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, multimillionaire hedge fund people just don't arbitrarily run into a need for a prostitute.
That assumably not.
So, yeah. But great movie.
Yeah, dude, really good.
Yeah.
Really good. In fact, when I used to own, this sounds like such a rich guy thing, but it was totally not. I had a 1987 Porsche 944, and it wasn't, and it was like super low, like James Bond type car. I mean, literally, I was twice as the height of the vehicle. And it wasn't until that I owned that vehicle that I understood from the beginning of the movie where the guy says that Lamborghini, he goes, oh, it rides like it's on rails.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, what the fuck does that even, like, I don't understand that. And then I drove a car that was so low to the ground that you're like, oh shit, this is like a roller coaster.
Well, it's more to do with the suspension, that when it goes around curves,
It just
it
was phenomenal.
I mean, you can get a Mini Cooper S, and it's crazy. Those little bastards they ride on rails too. So.
It's amazing what that Mark Wahlberg movie probably did for those sales. Do you remember that? It was the Italian Job.
The Italian Job, yeah, the remake of it was the original. With
Charlize Theron, I think it was.
Yeah,
don't worry about that horn. We didn't do anything wrong. Owning that Porsche was the first time that I really was like, oh, dude, the Germans were so advanced when it came to engineering. I mean, like, this was a car that was as old as I was. It had power windows. It had phenomenal capabilities. And at the end of the day, it was a $5,000 used vehicle that was 30-something years old. Yeah. And I was like, shit, like, they were kind of always ahead of the game.
Oh, I mean, they're 6-cylinder engine, how much power that they can get out of it. They're 911 turbo.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Any
it's-
day.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, I had a Volkswagen GTI for shit. I had two of them over a series of like 12 years. I loved those vehicles. I wanted nothing to do with it when the guy tried to get me to test drive it too. I remember, dude, it was literally like, I went there for a Honda Civic. It was the first time I was buying a new car. And I was like, well, if I'm going to buy something, I want it to be all the things that I wanted. I wanted like black, stick shift, sunroof, at least. And they were trying to sell me some red one. And I said, do I look stupid? I was like, do you think that I want to drive around in a red car, a brand new sports car? I said, that's just like, how many tickets can they give me this week? And the guy was like, well, we have this over here. And he pointed to the little, they called them the little rabbits or golf rabbits back
Oh
then,
yeah, I remember rabbits. Yeah.
So I got in it and I remember thinking like the steering wheel, the whole situation, it felt like I was in a cockpit. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I remember getting onto the interstate in like second gear going 70. And I was like, all right, Pat, you need to not smile so that this man doesn't know how much you're just like into this vehicle. Like I'm absolutely
You're
buying
not
this fucking
yeah,
car.
and you're not getting a discount.
No, 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 no. I was like, you need to just like play it hard on this one. But I knew within like 2 miles of having that car, I was like, well, this is clearly going to be my next
I
vehicle.
love it. I
Well,
love it.
such a
And
fan.
which what makes vehicles so amazing when you find those that turn your senses,
Yeah, yeah,
however way you want it. Like, for me, most of the cars I've ever had, a very fast one, or I'm going off road,
yeah.
right? Because I need, speaking of what we were talking about, adventure. They both give you adventure in
Yeah.
a different way.
Yes.
Uh,
The adventure you can have in a city with a fast little sports car or out on some open road is limited the moment that pavement stops.
and that's when my off-road vehicle takes over.
Yes.
That's I absolutely love it.
Now we were talking about sailing earlier, or at least boats in general. When was the first time you remember being on a boat?
So 6 years old, my dad, he had always been a sailor. It was actually how my parents met. My mother's boss was a sailor, and my dad had raised in England and came over here, so they somehow got together. Two people, single, so hook them up.
Yeah.
So ever since then, when I was young, we first had a 16-foot Prindle catamaran,
Okay.
and we used to, what's good about those, you can just pull up on the sand, no big deal. It's just a trampoline
You don't need a dock.
platform. You do not need a dock.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
cool.
where we kept it, just up on the beach at a condo in Pensacola, Florida. And
That's awesome.
yeah, absolutely loved it. When you go in the wind, you're heeling up, so your entire, one side is out of the water.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely a little puckering when you
Dude,
not
I'm sure.
experienced to it.
I'm
and
sure.
stuff.
I'm sure.
But yeah, that's what got me in. And by the time I was 12 years old, I was racing them. So it's just, and man, you can fly, absolutely fly. But I love, like I said, that type of adventure. But yeah, so 6 years old, and I've always loved the water. Be it I'm on it, I got to be in it. Here at Fells Point, I love being out in the water, which I was like a duck out of water when I moved out to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Dude, I was just thinking that. I was like, okay, so is that what got you into overlanding? You're like, well, I need something.
Yes, I think that was. And, I was a teacher at the time. So I had, 2 good months to do something. I said, what am I going to do? I'm teacher salary. I'm not flying to, London or Paris and
No.
taking up shop there. But I needed some type of venture to see things. And yeah, absolutely. That's when I was like, yeah, overlanding, which, like we were alluding to, is not about just off-roading. It's about being able to sustain yourself for days, if not weeks on end, without the need for going to the grocery store, right? Without the need for getting gas, because you got the gas tanks on the back. You got your dual battery system, so you can have your refrigerator running in the back. So it's really all about getting lost.
Yeah, I like that. Because if you're in Santa Fe, I mean, the closest you are to water, you got to go to California, I imagine, right? Or down to like parts of Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, it would be that, or even though personally I wouldn't want to go through Texas, but maybe down towards Corpus Christi, something like that. But I would think
I wouldn't say that that's closer than California.
No, I was saying, I was
Oh,
thinking,
shit.
yeah, when I'm thinking about it now, it's Yeah, it's probably 10 hours to LA,
Yeah.
12 at the most.
So
I've done it, but I always I go up
north
normally
first,
north into Colorado.
over to Flagstaff area.
Well, no, I'd leave out Arizona a
Okay.
lot. So I'd like to go because I'm more, the evergreen forests, lots of water,
Fair,
the
fair.
rivers, waterfalls, things of that. So, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, things along those lines, and then eventually hitting Seattle and then working my way down.
Dude, that's awesome. Idaho's gorgeous. I loved Idaho so much. Like,
It is.
such a diverse topography everywhere.
It's just unfortunate that I think the population there of humans goes with their crop, their state crop. There's a lot of potato heads.
Oh, I was like, what's their crop? I forgot what they
Yeah.
produce there.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, in my time in there, I never actually saw a place that was growing potatoes in any of my driving. Nowhere that advertised it. Like I was like, okay, Idaho potatoes are from here, but I don't know what part of the state they're coming from.
Well, they don't really advertise themselves, Potatoes
No,
like
Five Guys advertises themselves.
there you go.
Yeah,
So
that's the only reason I know.
that's it.
But I went to the Brunei, I think it's the sand dunes of Brunei, is what they call it. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. But when I was there, it was the first time I didn't know we had sand dunes that you could go sledding down in the US until I took that trip.
Yeah, I mean, you
It's
have
fucking
them in
cool.
Colorado, you have some in New Mexico.
That makes sense to
Yeah.
me. Up in Idaho, I was like, wait, what?
Well, the crazy part, you say that makes sense with New Mexico. This always baffled my mind about people in New Mexico. There are actually people that believe you need a passport to get into
New
New
Mexico.
Mexico
Well,
because Mexico's in the time.
yeah, well, of course, of course.
And you have people that believe it's a desert, that it's just hot,
Yeah,
all
which
the
is
time.
false, super false.
Right? And when I say, well, Santa Fe is actually the highest capital in the United States.
Yeah, you would think Denver. Everybody would. It's got the
Oh,
mile. I mean, it literally calls itself the Mile High
right?
City.
And so we're that high tundra, so it gets bloody cold at night, and obviously it can get warm, but heck, everywhere. I think just last week it was 100 degrees in Alaska,
Yeah,
which we're about to get this massive
I'm not excited
heat
for
wave
that.
here. But
I was one of those people who thought New Mexico was obviously just desert and, maybe even high desert, but just desert everywhere. And
yeah,
then my first time going cross country was when I was like 22 and I was moving out to California and I had gone to Phoenix. And then when I was in Arizona, someone was like, you got to see the Grand Canyon south. So I went up with the Flagstaff. Gorgeous. Loved it. First of all, shocked when I got to Flagstaff that it was snowing.
right, yeah,
I saw the southern, and then as you go to the southern rim, obviously you're going up and up and up, and it just got worse and worse. And I had literally all my belongings in my car, in a two-door Volkswagen GTI. I didn't take a bed with me, I just had clothes and, nonsense. And I was like, all right. I said, well, this is a travel at your own risk situation. And so then I was like, well, I'm already here. And I had no rush to get there. So I had friends in Denver that were like, well, why would you not come to Denver if you're going cross country? And I was like, well, shit, it is out of the way to backtrack. But again, who cares? It's just the gas. And so I did that. And as I'm going across northern Arizona into New Mexico, I was informed that part of, is it 40? Highway 40 that's up there? Had something like 120 miles that was closed because of foot after foot of snow.
yeah.
Blew my mind. All right. And I had, on that journey at one point, I had stopped from having like no sleep, stayed in some hotel parking lot for like 2 or 3 hours. And when I woke up, there was like just this little thin layer on my windshield. And I was like, oh shit, like gas up real quick and then it going. I had something like 7 or 8 hours left in my journey. That took about 14 because you go through the Roatan Pass up there.
Mm-hmm.
And until you got to the Colorado state line, there was nothing about those roads that were safe. You got across there, and immediately you could tell Colorado invests a lot more money in their plowing. It was just, night and day difference. I was like, okay, thank God I made this, But
it's like Virginia going into West Virginia.
yes, oh, wildly different. Yeah. Well, again, they don't even have the
roads and
population to even give a damn about like, why are we going to bother with this?
It's going back to overlanding. If you had your overlanding vehicle,
It wouldn't have been an issue
wouldn't have
then.
been an issue.
Wouldn't have been an issue. I remember getting way more snow when I was a kid in Virginia. Somewhere, my birthday's in April, and I can remember once having a blizzard around April 10th. And I mean like 4 feet of snow blizzard.
And it's those type little memories that you don't really have to be a climate scientist
To
to be able
recognize
to
something's
say
happening.
there's there's a change of brewing.
Yes. I've
Right?
always like when they say climate change, I'm always like at the very least there's a climate shift because I remember, whether I don't know how it's working, but when I was a kid, we had that, and then now we're in May and we had 40-degree nights. It was wild. Like I was shocked this year how many 40-degree nights happened in May in Virginia. I actually like was using the windows open AC fans on to keep my AC going
Yeah.
for a while, and it became a point where that was actually irresponsible. It was I was like, okay, it's freezing in my fucking house right now. It's beyond a point of reasonable. And now we're about to a month, only 3 weeks later, it's about to be 100 degrees tomorrow.
For days on end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the lows in the high 80s.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, one of mine, because a lot of my life I was on the Gulf Coast. And a simple thing, the pier, right? When high tide would come, you always had a grounded area.
Hmm.
And then after just decades and decades, the water at high tide all of a sudden was 3 feet up in your yard.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So always seeing that shift when it would never hit your yard. And then, like I said, yeah, years and years later, just slowly start. So, things are definitely changing with that. And that's such a impactful thing
Oh God,
across
yeah.
the world.
I mean,
Right?
what percentage of the world's population lives on coastal cities? I'm sure over half.
Well over half. Yeah.
If you like take away like Bangladesh, and I bet you it goes into higher number. Do you know? I've seen a picture. It shows that
But the people
Bangladesh.
in Bangladesh want to live on the coast.
Of course. Well, of course. There's 168 million people stuffed into something the size of Virginia.
Yeah.
It's wild. I could be completely inaccurate on the size comparisons, but it is. I saw something where it was like basically Bangladesh, and then it was like all this land above, and it was like has more population here than anything above it combined,
Mhm.
and it was just absolutely crazy. Is it Dhaka? That's the city of Bangladesh, I believe. It's an incredibly dense place.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary on it years ago, and it just it didn't look like an area that I would find myself hanging out in for too long.
No, I mean, very obviously religious, holy place and such, but as always with population, starvation,
Yeah,
what's
dense,
going
a lot
on.
of smog.
Oh, a lot of that. And I believe it was 1971 that George Harrison did the concert for Bangladesh, and that was really one of the first ever concerts where famous Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan got together as a charity concert.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
Just
that.
get back, yeah.
See, this is why this guy's my music guy.
Kinda-
I would never have known that for any fucking reason. That's really cool.
Yes. So yeah, you got all those.
What
type
was
things.
the charity? Do you remember what they were raising money specifically for?
Yeah,
Just poverty, or
it was the poverty issue, and people were starving there. Very much like the '80s with Ethiopia and things like that. And then you got the AIDS, and so what was it? We Are the World, right? That
Yep,
was the
yep.
big
Remember that.
thing where everybody got, and I think that was about, Ethiopia and the starving kids and such. So, hey, but at least we have a lot more billionaires now.
Yeah, thank goodness.
So, we could solve starvation, but yet, how would you be able to sell $250 million yachts?
Yeah, dude, it's really wild when you look at yachts and you see that someone has that much disposable income. It's kind of crazy. And here's the thing. I don't think there should be a cap on what a person can make, but I do think there should be a certain level of tax that person should expect to pay then. Like I think once you make above $10 million, there should be no loopholes. Like,
Well, definitely no loopholes, and
because it's crazy to me that someone who is making that isn't putting in their fair share of society. And I know that they're not using the roads any more than anybody else to a certain extent, but that amount of wealth production is just wild, absolutely wild. And the fact that some of them have the ability to pay a lower percentage tax than I would pay is angering.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always said that when it came to being a teacher, right? By my salary, these billionaires are paying less, and there's all the loopholes, especially having to pay federal taxes,
Yeah.
depending on what business you own. If you're a hedge fund guy, you can make, prospecting, and if it fails, you just get to write it off. or
Yeah.
bankruptcies, whatever. It's all of this. It's amazing. We're on the internet trying to get people just to donate pencils and paper and
Yeah.
sharp and markers. It's just it's a weird system
Yeah.
that we have. And I always said, why can't it be a 99% tax rate after $1 billion? What the hell do you need more than $1 billion? And even then, if you made another, I mean, you're still you still get to keep that 1% over the $1 billion. But damn, $1 billion.
It's a lot.
Dollars.
It's a lot. And I'm not so far as to like thinking 99%, but I do think that it has to be way higher than what it is. And I think on the lower end, like let's say you're under 50 grand, why doesn't anybody ever, everyone under 50 grand just pay a flat tax of 15% or 10%, an understandable number, because first of all, you'd have way less people try to screw the system at all or not pay. If you told me that 10% of my income always went towards this, and then the people that are above 10 million are paying a certain amount, I'd be fine with that. Because first of all, the tax code's way too complicated. There's shit added every year. It's completely, I can't understand it. I don't even have a bunch of things that I can claim as write-offs or whatever, and I find my stuff like I need an accountant. I need someone to help me look at my shit to make sure that I'm not somehow screwing myself and later going to get audited.
Yeah, that
Like
I want all the money I can back.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
But if
And
you
we're
told me
doing
I
it
got-
for that, millionaires and billionaires do it because how can I
not
not?
yes yes like I think that if you're going to make someone legally do something like pay taxes, it should not be complicated. It should definitely not overly complicated. That's where I like round numbers, 10%, 20%, something like that, like where it's like, hey, just times this by 2, go pay that, nothing else, you're done.
I guess, yeah. I mean, but what you used to be able to write off, you can't write off anymore. There's just so many changes that have bent towards the wealthy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at Eisenhower, Republican president, we had a 92% tax rate.
I didn't know that. That's absurd. Oh,
And yet,
on everybody?
as a federal,
Okay,
as
okay,
an
okay.
overall federal, and then that was going into the 50s when everybody said that's how we were coming out of World War II and the prosperity of America, right? The whole idea of the house with the picket fence and the car and the drive and all that stuff began to blossom. Unions,
Interstate
really
highway
coming
system at the
out.
same time.
Absolutely, yeah. So all those things, but nobody remembers the high tax rate in order to get that.
Yeah. No.
Right?
I mean, I feel like I'm not an idiot of history, and I didn't know it was that high of a
Yeah.
tax rate.
Oh, yeah. So it's weird how so many things have shifted. Right? We believe what, not to go down a political tangent.
That could be a whole another episode. But you are a man to speak on this because I mean, you're teaching. You were a history teacher, correct?
Mhm.
Did you have an era of history that you taught most commonly, or was it just abroad? I mean, I know in high school they might have someone teach Byzantine, and then I'll go all the way up to World War II.
Well, yeah, that's another problem with our education system, and it's every grade, and normally it's the state that you're in, but that grade had to do with what you taught, right? Normally 7th, 8th grade, one of those would be whatever state history had to be thrown in there, and then U.S. history was thrown in there, and normally it'd be like part 1, and then you get to high school, and then you'd have your world history, which was a year. I always liked that.
Yeah.
Nothing like world history. We can get it all through in 1 year. And U.S. history, you get the same amount of time. So it's, if you look back at it, and a lot of times you would have like a history or civics, something along those. But most of the time we're getting rid of that.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, we were talking about that earlier about, the evolving needs of the workforce, not just in our country, but in the world. And then essentially like what education is going to be needed for those people, and how we would hope that, like, let's say you're great at chemistry. If you're someone who just kills it when it comes to understanding chemistry, physics, math, calculus, whatever, I don't think you should be penalized when you're trying to enter college for the fact that you might have failed history, or let's not say failed, but a D in history and English literature or whatever. Because I don't
That
expect
brought
your
down
math.
that GPA, right?
Yeah, but you
You're
did
trying.
A in calculus too.
Right.
I think you qualify for whatever it is you're going for.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, you mentioned them taking away civics class because we do have a democracy where everybody is allowed to vote. Yeah,
Put that in air quotes, please.
no, of course, of course. I realize there's asterisks all over this statement, but I do believe that you should have at least a certain understanding of history and civics and how government is supposed to work in order to consider
Well,
yourself an informed citizen.
right, because
Granted,
then you understand the social contract that we actually have,
yes.
right? Living in a republic that we do, and that's
Which, by the way, is different, the social contract amongst each other compared to the Constitution, which is people with government.
absolutely.
I mean, even that concept right there, I think, is probably lost on a lot of people. Like the Constitution has nothing to do with me and you. It has to do with me and the government, you and the government, what we allow them to do, what their limitations are. And then we have the contract between us where it's like, don't rob this person, don't murder this person. That's not murdering somebody is not in the Constitution. You have the right to liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness
Yeah.
from the government.
Well,
Your neighbor might kill you.
yes,
That's just
and it was always the pursuit that was guaranteed.
yes.
Not that
yes.
you would be happy.
No. That's And again, we can come back to billionaires. How many people have we seen who are the kids of the wealthy or celebrities that end up killing themselves? So even that shows us that the pursuit of wealth and life and all that does not lead to happiness.
Yeah, it was based around a poem, but a Simon and Garfunkel song, Richard Cory, is all about that. And it was about the person that was watching this wealthy person, the parties, the wealth, how he looked like he was happy. And this worker just kept coming home, feeling depressed about his life, wish he could be Richard Cory. And then in the news one day, Richard Cory went home last night and put a bullet through his head. Right. And so it's about that. You always think that, oh, they must have it just because you have money. But like you alluded to, there's plenty of people that just because they have money, they are just sad, they're depressed. I mean, suicidal rates, overindulging on pharmaceutical drugs or whatever it may be. Yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
that's why the optionality of that thing makes them think that they're going to get happier. Because, like, for instance, like if I'm depressed, I can't afford cocaine. I can't go out and I can't have a regular drug habit. That would just be, I would be more broke than I am now. Someone who's rich looks at that and they can get in that hole for a long time and not
Yes.
realize that it's negatively impacting their life because they can still sustain it. I think that's one of the
Absolutely.
like problems of the rich in general.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that as a poem and how the worker saw Richard Cory. I think about now how people probably have that same issue just with, let's just say, Instagram. You get the option to constantly see people who are doing better than you, at least better than you, and maybe the perception of better is always going to be different. But you can see people out on yachts, boats, private jets. When back in the day you would know that existed, but you wouldn't get to literally have it thrown in your
Absolutely.
fucking
Right,
face every
right,
10
right.
seconds. I mean,
And then
it's wild.
It's also the people, when you look at it, realizing nobody's going to probably post their bad days.
No.
So you only get to see the absurdity of, look at my life, look at this.
Yes.
Which is why normal people just take pictures of their food, because this is the best thing going on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we wanted to be real, I could put a 30-second video on me just fucking cursing up a storm as I'm driving up here today when this fucking rock hits my windshield 2 weeks before I need to get my car inspected. I was like, oh, great, $400 that I'd rather not spend right now, or insurance, whichever route I'm going to have to go to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia is not going to let me get that inspection now with this stupid crack there. I could share that part of my day, and nothing about my wonderful meal is going to. It's crazy, like that is the most impactful thing of the first part of my morning today was that one news, because I was like, wow, I won't make enough money today to cover this dumb little rock.
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, I guess I was general, but some people do that. But the problem is people don't have as many friends that they can just share that. So it's like they have to share both positive or negatives, if it's something like that, with the world, because they just can't go home and just talk to someone. Or, I always loved the old corded phones. That was such a thing.
Yeah.
And now on the cell phone, I'm like, why is there even a real call mechanism? How often do we call
Yeah.
anymore.
Very infrequently.
And damn sure how often do we write someone,
I mean, almost never.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I am unusual in the sense that I have a pen and
You
paper
could
with
have
me on
just
a
stopped
regular
right there.
basis. Yeah, well, but no, it's true. I miss that about seeing my grandma. She was 93 when she passed, or right before, she was a day before 93, something like that. And she still wrote letters up until, her dying week.
Yeah.
Like to people, she wrote letters to people she worked with in Africa who she wasn't even sure were still alive to receive them anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I think about that constantly. There was one guy that she knew was in his 90s too, and she's like, "Well, I haven't heard back from him in like 6 months." I was like, "Well, that might be a sign. That sucks."
Look at the pessimism that you have, and she was trying to keep it.
I was very real with my grandma. Okay, I was very real. My grandma was so shameless in certain things. It was so funny. My grandma was probably never over 105 pounds her whole life. I think she told me she gained when she was pregnant with my mom, gained my mom plus like 12 pounds. But she was also living in Cameroon, Africa, in 100 and fucking something degree weather all the time, walking constantly, and taking care of two other kids, and so she had basically no sympathy for people who were let's just call them the 400 plus crowd. She understood people who were heavier when people became like that stereotypical picture of a round potato walking around, and then they would still continue to make unhealthy decisions. She had zero sympathy for that. I remember once sitting with her at Panera Bread, and this couple walked by us, and they were, I mean, just together probably, close to 1,000 pounds, 400 pounds apiece easily. And my grandma, they were passing by. She didn't even wait until they had finished passing the table. And she just goes, I just don't know how people live like that. And I was like, Grandma, she's like, no, no, no. She's like, and look at what they're getting to eat,
Well, of course. Well,
And then
the
I was
good
like,
thing about that, you didn't need to say, you could actually feel it in the table.
yeah, yes, you could. But I looked at my grandma and then I thought, well, how mad can I be at her? Because she's sitting here at 92 with no reason to really be concerned about her continued health over the next year or two beyond, maybe some spikes in cholesterol or whatever, and was splitting a croissant with me, because she didn't want to overdo it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess she at least epitomized and embodied that which she continued to, preach.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, once again, different rabbit holes we can go
Well, of course.
down on just this one topic, bit with the differences in the way a guy needs to look in society as they get older.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Compared to what women feel.
So different.
And the bullshit thing about metabolism slows down.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a lie until maybe like you're way into your 60s, 70s, obviously later.
What you do to your body affects how that metabolism
Absolutely.
goes. What you do to your glycemic index,
all
you do
of those things, what you're putting in, the quality of your food. Are you getting any bloody exercise? All of these things is really determines that. But then we don't have menopause.
Yeah.
And shit like that really does affect a lot of women in a way that destroys some of their thyroid, and they can't help. But I mean, I remember my mother between she does Nordic treks. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
She was doing miles on that, barely eating, and could not lose weight for anything.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. But like I said, you can go into so many different levels of way society is, how we view other people. But
we'll also just look at the quality of food, that's available, or what's in our food now compared to what wasn't in our food 50, 60 years ago, maybe 70 at this point.
I mean, I would say the dawn of when we started subsidizing the farm, and then the whole agriculture movement. And
is that leading towards like high fructose syrup kind
absolutely
of deal?
Yeah, high fructose syrup. But then most of the thing that we produce either goes as an export or to feed the livestock, because our livestock are in feedlots. We're feeding cows corn in order to fatten them up, but they can't even digest it. And they're in such horrific conditions, which is why like 80% of our antibiotics go towards cows, chickens, pigs, just to keep them alive long enough and then not spread anything to slaughter them.
Yeah.
So
I think about the average size of a chicken like 20, 30 years ago compared to now at like, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. I'm not going to pretend to know the stages, but it's like, It's wild.
Or you just see the chicken in 1950.
Yeah.
What it looked. I mean, now so many of them can't even walk.
Yeah, I was thinking that they
But
literally
the
topple
weight
over.
of their bodies, because we believe that breast is the best part of you, so we basically genetically engineered these things to have massive breast pieces. Right? Yeah, it's like that's why I said there's so many different ways and permeations that you can go to about what's happened to our health. You look at those pictures from World War II,
Yeah.
and you're looking around, and how many overweight,
Yeah.
much less obese,
Yeah.
did you see?
I mean, almost nothing.
Right.
Literally. And
I
unless
mean, it could have been the pack of cigarettes a day and
that
and the
that's so funny. I
martinis
know.
of it.
Dude, I know. You know what? I wonder this sometimes, not always. I think about this nowadays. How much is our increased levels, at least among the youth and all that, of diagnosed ADHD just have to do with the fact that nobody smokes anymore? Like people used to just constantly be kind of self-medicated on nicotine and kind of have that going. And now you see people that look edgy all the time. And I'm like, well, a cigarette might help that. Like, I hate to admit that, but a cigarette does calm you down. Although it does do the constricting, and obviously internally it's not doing that. It does. There is an edge that's taken off to having a drink or having a smoke. Whether you should be doing that on a regular enough basis that it becomes your diet. No, but now, I mean, what's the difference now between just popping Ritalin, popping Adderall? It's like, okay, well, you're still just putting something in your body.
And you have to think: is it really that many people with ADHD?
That's a whole other topic.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's
diagnosed compared to reality.
Diagnosed compared. Well,
like how many people who are kind of depressed could also just use some exercise and sunlight and then maybe at least be 20% better?
Yes.
I'm not going to say that solves it. I get that there's like some shit going on.
Absolutely. But I don't think it's as a black and white an issue.
No.
And
as almost nothing tends to be.
Yes. Almost everything is gray.
Yeah. I don't think you really get that until you get much older in life. Or there's a certain time where you're just like, okay, well, this is clearly not as I was told, but it's also not the opposite either.
That's true.
Middle ground of everything in most places.
Well, I mean, going back to your grandmother and the people at Panera Bread, I've always, my favorite thing to ever hear was at McDonald's, the whole, I'll take, this number 3, supersize it, and make it a Diet Coke. I thought
God,
that was
well, dude, I used to work at a one of your typical chains, Applebee's, Fridays, Charlie's, all those kind of places. And at the time, I was in my like younger 20s, and I was in like ridiculously good shape at this one period. And I'll never forget coming up to this dude, and he wasn't in like bad shape, but he wasn't like tight anymore. He was also in his 40s. It wasn't. It all made sense. But he sat there and he ordered this thing we had, which was an amazing pasta. It was so fucking good. Like I've definitely eaten it before. But I delivered it to the table. And then as he was eating it, he looked at me. He goes, "Man, let me ask you something." I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "Hey, you stay in such good shape." And I looked at him. I said, "Well, not to be rude, but I don't eat that." I said, "That's not how I spend my lunch on a Tuesday." And he just goes to this. He goes, "Yeah, I know. And I was like, exactly. The information is there, but what bad day did he have where that, like you said, bring back to that's the best part of his day, maybe? Where he goes, well, fuck, let me just get some flavor and indulge and enjoy this.
Well, but then that goes to, it really does have to do with beyond nutrition factors, calories in, calories out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, right? For sure.
If that was his only meal,
that wouldn't be a problem.
That would be a problem, right? Yeah, it's when now you've doubled it up at, your dinner. Maybe you had your breakfast, maybe you're snacking in between things. And then that just slowly builds up. Most, adult meals are around, 1,700 to 2,000 calories.
So this particular pasta dish, I remember knowing because, we had been forced at whatever point it was to then put calorie count thing.
Yeah.
It was 1,400 calories, which would be almost enough for his
your daily intake.
Yeah, he barely needs any more than that. If he's not an overly active person, there's no reason that you need much more than that,
Yeah.
And then again, people like that would then order a diet soda, but then have like 3 of them or 4 of them. It's just crazy.
But there's no calories in that, Patrick.
Of course,
which is
of
okay.
Course.
Don't worry about all the other stuff that causes cancer and actually spikes your levels.
Well, and then that brings us to another area. It's like the idea of, I don't even know that not, this isn't genetically modified, I guess is not how you'd word it, but or they essentially use the taste profiles of things and enhance taste to then make you more addicted to them, or to
Oh,
make them, give you better flavor without satiation, and essentially cause you to have more and more and more of it.
that's
You know,
but that's that goes back to just our natural senses from 100+ thousand years ago as animals, things that you could not get in the wild, salts, sugars,
mhm.
that when you got it, you tended to overfill,
Yeah, yeah,
overindulge
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. But that's because
So,
you didn't find them on a regular
well, that's what I'm
basis.
saying.
Yeah,
But we still have that programmed into us, but yet we have it everywhere we want it
yeah,
now, right?
yeah.
How many people, you get a Pringles can, just go, two's fine, and you put the
Yeah,
cap back
no,
on
it
and
literally
put.
says once you pop, you can't stop, motherfucker. It doesn't matter.
Right,
Well, and
right.
think about if you were in the wild, let's say we're out foraging right now, like forget, 100,000 years ago, like literally this moment. If you and I go out there, it's going to take us a while to find enough blueberries to even make us feel like we're full, or if you wanted honey, honey is a risk. It takes a lot to get honey out of a hive, let alone the consequences of doing so. I think that we overindulge now in things that we once like were lucky to even find in a day.
Well, that's it, and that's what I mean. And then all those things you're talking about, uh, berries and such would only be around during the spring
Yep. Yep.
time anyway. And yeah, you would just take them in, get the spike levels going. But most of the time, we were carnivores when we were until we became, agricultural societies, right? Where
Yeah.
you can plant, store grains, start salting all your meat to have it for long periods of time. But I mean, we started, out of Africa and going across. That's how we expanded.
How do you think we figured out the whole salting thing? Like, where did you get enough salt that you were like, well, listen, this very difficult thing to obtain that's not everywhere, let's just go pour it all over the meat and just see how long the meat stays good.
That's like anything. Come on, Patrick. I mean,
But that one seems absurd by a lot of levels. I mean, honestly, even the idea of making bread is kind of a crazy, like, who knew to do all the things right to make that happen? But especially salty meat, because it's just like, you wouldn't want to have it so much salt, it kind of gets overwhelming. And then would you think, like, let me just douse my entire carcass that I just pillaged in this? Like, that just seems crazy to me.
yeah, I mean, there had to be something when just, I don't know.
Like,
So
what
I'm
weird
sure.
accident? Or maybe some animal they find in a salt pit and they're just like, oh, well, this thing is actually still good.
Preserve
Johnny ate it and
some.
he's not dead. So I guess we could go from that. I mean, how much of our diets just came from like, well,
But
this didn't kill him.
but I think it originated with fish.
Hmm.
Don't quote me on that.
No,
But I think
that would
it
make sense.
originated fish catching it on the coast, the salt water, using those things. Oh, it does actually preserve it. And then they moved on to, beef, cattle, things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, you still have salted cod now, and you have to leave it in the water for, a day or so just to extract as much of
Oh,
that.
didn't know that.
So yeah, so that's which is what they did. So they didn't just pull it out, right? Once you had it in the salt, like when you were going across the Atlantic or something, in the 18th century, you'd have the big barrels take it out and you'd have to rinse it to extract a lot of that salt.
Did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That brings me to something that is completely off of this topic, but I think about on a regular basis, especially back in January when I saw the fires going
We're
on.
already like shotgun when it comes to our topic
Oh yeah,
today,
yeah.
anyways.
No. This
So
is
you might as well we might as well
no
keep it
fair,
rolling.
fair. Why? So I know nothing about the technology of desalination, but it is really annoying to see somewhere like Southern California get destroyed by wildfires when they're right next to the ocean. Now, I understand why it's difficult to then, go through buckets and hoses and get like salt. You can't just have salt water coming up in the hose and then do all that. But I don't know why a state that has the ninth largest economy in the world, sometimes it floats between 12 and, 5, doesn't invest in building desalination plants to solve a series of problems that they have down there. One, the availability of water to even put fires out with. Two, not taking water from the Colorado River, which is, by the way, going like down and down every fucking year.
Well, most of that's from, irrigation and agriculture that's being sucked out, right? I mean, so that's one. Two, most people don't realize it's not like, oh, I got a little fire and you can take a hose to it.
Yeah.
When fires really start taking over, throwing hundreds of gallons on it does not put it out, right? So, I mean, they had people, helicopters and such,
Doing what
scoop
they could.
out
Yeah.
massive amounts. But when it gets to such a hot, and then like those California, I mean, there were hurricane force winds.
Oh, yeah. No. And
Right?
I'm aware of that.
And so all of those things.
I
But
don't.
there
Yeah.
already is like sailing. If you're going to be an offshore cruiser, there's already water makers, and it desalinates the water in your.
So why don't we do that on a larger level? Because I see where LA right now, one of the things that they do, they're one of the cities that will recycle drinking and sewage water.
Sewage water, yeah.
I would way rather have ocean water that was filtered going through there than that money always.
It's a much more expensive way of providing water as opposed to just recycling used water. Yeah.
Annoying. I'd way rather that be the thing. That
Well,
bothers me when I drink tap water in LA. It always kind of grosses me out to know that this is a percentage of previously used
But
water.
That's most cities.
Yeah,
Most cities.
but they advertise it. I don't know in every other place that I go, but in LA they're like, oh, by the way, I'm like, please just don't tell me. Why do we need to talk about this?
Well,
Phoenix is probably one of them as well, I imagine.
Which brought me, I remember when I was living in San Diego, and it was, one of the, I guess, where they suck out from your septic tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found it one of the best slogans ever.
Go ahead.
It said, "Your crap is our bread and butter."
That is great.
Freaking perfect.
I watched
Never forget that.
right before COVID took place. There was a documentary, I think it was on Netflix, but it could have been Prime, that was all on Bill Gates and some of his efforts around the world. And one of them had to do with the pulling water from sewage in somewhere in Africa, and how they were doing that on a basically could create something that only serviced 10, 20,000 people. It was small, essentially, but
But it
not
was taking
much.
always. I think
Yes.
it was like every single bit away.
Oh yeah, no, literally
Turning it into
it took
drinkable water.
anything that wasn't water was dispelled, and anything that was H2O they were getting. And it was phenomenal. And they even, had the guy there offer build a glass right there, and he's like, yeah, drink, it's fine, it's all good. It tests, all the levels are great. And I forget the technology they were using for it, but that looked efficient, super, super efficient. And I was more sold on the idea then. But then when I'm like, okay, well, Bill Gates paid for this one. What about the one that LA just decided to develop on their land? How great is this? How good are some of these old pipe systems? Yeah, everything here that he's showing me are brand new.
Of course.
What about in somewhere they're like, well, we kind of built this, in the late 1800s, so, who knows?
I mean, that goes back to
lead in your water
Ferguson
and everything
with our
else.
lead pipes.
Yeah,
I mean, we have lead pipes everywhere, but
yeah,
we didn't know all these things. And
no, again, I always remember people were doing the best they could back then, to some extent. That's lead. We didn't know lead was terrible for you at one point.
Pain. We were doing it everything. It's a great product. It just happens to poison the shit out of it.
Yeah. Did we ever think asbestos was good?
Oh, did you hear that?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
yes. Just tell me.
They're taking back the regulations for asbestos.
That's bothersome. After all those commercials I saw, I feel lied to.
Mesothelioma, right?
Yes. That's the only reason I would know that word.
Yeah, between that and let's see, the suicide hotline, and there's for LGBTQ plus community that's being shut down. Yeah, so all kinds of fun stuff.
So something I have seen that's been, I don't know whether it's been done yet or not, but I will take a position on actually agreeing with one thing because this brings us back to our earlier topic. I never liked the idea that you could buy soda with food stamps. I worked at a Sheetz gas station. I worked at a few gas stations in my youth, and it was annoying to me to think that you could buy, because again, I think about how that just puts into the already poor health situation. And I'm like, well, why is any of my tax money helping to make Coca-Cola money? why is any of my tax money then also creating possible more diabetes that is going to also up all of our healthcare costs? Like, I don't like that. I never enjoyed that. So I'm okay with that being like a
So,
limitation.
what would you suggest the alternative? They buy like cases of bottled water.
Sure, yeah, literally, like just no soda. Like why are you allowed to make Pepsi money, Coca-Cola money, all those on something that's just awful? Because you know what I don't do? I don't buy those things. I like that's a healthy decision that you're enabling them to be able, you're enabling anyone who's on that service to be able to make that decision without the financial burden of doing it the way that I do. It's crazy. I didn't realize the other day I bought a Pepsi. It was a little 20-ounce thing. It was $2.49.
Hmm.
It's absurd. When I worked at Sheets, you could buy a 2 liter for $1.09 after tax. Okay, which was an irresponsible thing. Okay, so I used to drink like a 2 liter Pepsi a day. All right, you wouldn't know this about me now, but before I was like 16, I drank Pepsi so religiously. I'm talking, I would drive around with it. It annoyed me because the 2 liter was cheaper, but it wouldn't fit
You're
in
a
your.
Pepsi person,
Bro, I
not
was,
a
yes,
Coke?
dude, I know, I know. I'm a Pepsi I always thought was better, okay? We'll never get endorsed by Coke after this. But I used to be annoyed that my 2 liter Pepsi couldn't fit in a cup holder, but it would be there right near my e-brake and all that. And dude, no shit, I would literally drink it in a dinner. I could go through a 2 liter Pepsi. It didn't matter. Then I went to the dentist for some checkup, which again, being a kid without insurance, didn't happen regularly. And I was expecting them to tell me that obviously I was just riddled with cavities. And I had none. And that was when I made the decision to stop because I was like, you know what? I really got lucky here. And I was like, I'm going to just stop drinking Pepsi. And I stopped drinking soda from about 16, 17, somewhere in that range to when I was about 21 and I started working at a bar. And when I was working there, I would drink water, water, water all the time. Like I drank water basically for years. I didn't drink tea. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't drink coffee till I was in my mid 20s. Like I didn't even try it. And then I only started drinking sweet tea when I worked in an Applebee's and it was like a slight, some type of flavor, which I
Right.
realized is awful for you because again, I saw how much sugar they put in there. But I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, this would have caused cavities. This would have caused diabetes. This, or it has the potential. Let's not say would, because maybe it doesn't if you got the right insides. But at the end of the day, you can see what it does to a nail and in a couple of days, and that ain't great.
Or you can put a pound of meat
Yes, and
in
it just
that.
gets destroyed.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with us not enabling people to buy that with a tax-funded system.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
the thing about it is that's another addictive product,
yes, 100%.
right?
You know, like
And I
like the
can,
downstream effects of that seem like an okay thing to cut off. It's like, yo, you can drink this on your own if you want, but not under my dollars.
and the thing, I totally agree with that premise. But then where does it stop? Do we not let them
Oh, yeah.
have cereals?
Yeah, yeah.
Do
Because
we
again,
not
what
let
is
them,
healthy,
right?
right? Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
mean,
No, I know, I
you
know.
know, if the SNAP program, you can only have the outside area of the
Of the bread.
no of the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, and I
Because
also think about how many places that are probably more populated with recipients of SNAP that are also kind of food deserts. The option of even healthy food is sometimes not abundant.
which is another thing. That's the
Yeah.
reason why these
Which, like we said
moguls
earlier,
of the
there is
Dollar
gray to all
Tree,
of
all
this.
those dollar stores would go specifically to those deserts
Of course. Of
and
course.
as a means to suck out on those poverty levels. But a lot of time that was their only grocery store.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's fucking absurd.
yeah.
I mean, do you drive through certain parts of West Virginia where there's clearly plenty of land and good crop area, you could have great vegetables, and there's a fucking Dollar General there. And then one little deli maybe that has, 6 heads of lettuce, and that's it. Like it's really, really nuts how hard it can be to find good quality food in places where I know you could grow good quality food.
But then that means you have to cook,
Yeah,
right? Most people, I mean, how many people know how to cook or willing to cook?
probably less
Take
than
their
most these
time. How
days.
many people actually think about their menu for a week? What are they going to do?
Well, then,
And
fuck.
right, then you look at those.
How many people could afford a great cooking class if they weren't paying Uber and DoorDash fees out the ass every month?
They need to watch episodes like we'll maybe
We'll
one
do
day
one
we'll
in the
have
kitchen
a
one
yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I went to the French Culinary Institute.
I did not know. I didn't fucking know that.
Yeah, New York. That's
No.
yeah,
When?
yeah. This was 2007.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I definitely got to introduce you to my cousin sometime. My cousin so she's trained in vegetarian and vegan cooking, like chef, whatever the hell, over in Switzerland. And so she now is a private chef for someone in this area and just, keeps them obviously with
Wow.
the healthiest levels of food. But she worked at a place that was called down in Columbia, Maryland, called the Great Sage. So she worked there for a while, which if you've never been, phenomenal. I normally think that,
I can
huh?
I don't know if I could. I mean, I understand for the planet being a vegan is
Yeah.
by far the best thing ever, but I don't
So
know about
it won't be my
the
daily
taste.
diet ever. But what I was going to say is that I had never until that place found what was labeled a vegan dessert that I thought was even palatable. I was always just like, "Yeah, this is fucking terrible."
Yeah, yeah.
And they made a few things there where I was like, well, shit, okay, like I'm wrong that the flavor can't be there, but I would never make that my like permanent diet. That's just, I would rather eat meat all day than eat really almost most other things. The amount of eggs that I eat in a month is not normal. Egg prices going up actually matter to me. I'm going through cartons of eggs every month. Like, love
Well,
eggs.
eggs is like a super human food. I mean, it
Yeah, oh yeah.
really is. All the
I
things that it
don't
provides.
get when people don't eat eggs.
Well, that was a big thing in the 80s and 90s. The whole eggs are bad for you, the
Yeah, yeah.
cholesterol and stuff, and how that's going to lead. And it's like everything. There's always butter
Yo, yeah,
horrible, then it's
yeah,
good for
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
mean, nobody, an avocado's too much fat. Oh man,
And
it's
now they're like, you need to eat only avocado for keto diets. But just when I look at an egg, I don't think there's one animal that if you crack a raw egg in front of that it doesn't go and eat it. I mean, a cat, a dog, birds, anything. Like there's if you leave an egg out, and not only that, think about how many animals will go and just try to pillage the eggs of other animals. That's got to be the most commonly eaten thing worldwide on a species level.
I can see it. Yeah.
Don't know how to find out if I'm accurate on that, but I'm willing to firmly run with that as a truth that I will then just, if this is false information, I'm okay spreading this little piece.
Well, to me, that is the perfect segue to end our podcast, the eggs,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Agreed.
Because like what we are just are over easy. Well,
Dude, actually, if we're going to talk about eggs for a moment, I've worked at a breakfast place before. You will never know how particular people can be until you have to serve them eggs. There's nothing. People can go with like, I want my steak medium, and it can be slightly medium rare, slightly medium well.
Patrick, I like you sounded particular. You cannot believe how many assholes there are. That's what you need to.
Yes, yes, and that's different, because I've gotten that with every other realm with food. But there's at least 17 different ways to cook an egg, and if you don't
Oh,
do it perfectly,
well, that's what I'm saying. That's just being an asshole.
agreed,
I
agreed.
mean,
But you're also paying for
unless you're
something,
going to the French Laundry, right?
which
In
many of
Itlo,
us are not.
Washington, right? If you're going Waffle House or whatever the hell you're doing, or even something here, if it's under $30, be lucky.
Yes.
If
Well,
if the yolk isn't broken,
yes.
right, and you said I want it over easy, feel good.
When my only counter to that can be that our place was named Expectations, so they did kind of sell themselves.
Yeah, they did.
It was egg. It was very eggs were our focus. So people come in there. They expected. They're like, no, I like slightly runny. You're like, okay, slight. Like we had buttons for things that you would never. They had thought of any way that someone could word something with eggs, and you'd be like, holy. I remember when I first started working there, and someone told me how they wanted their eggs. I was like, I'm gonna have to go type this. And then I went. And I was like, holy shit, there's buttons for every every single one of these had been thought about.
But it does tell you how many assholes there are.
Yo, yeah.
Because
well, work around alcohol enough, and that'll tell you how many assholes there are.
Well, it's like you have to put so many things on a steak. What is really rare?
Yeah.
Right? What is medium rare?
Yeah.
This is what
the nuances sometimes. I loved working at this one place where they gave two options with burgers. Do you want it medium rare or well done? That was it. And people all the time were like, well, can I get it more towards my nope? Like it was great. It was this place in DC called Duke's, which by the way, one of the best burgers you could ever fucking have. They had won like DC's best burger several years in a row. Like it's not even, I'm not even there's no hyperbole. It was actually that fucking great. But they used these thinner, patties. And when I first started working there, I think someone had
smash burgers. Right?
yeah, smash burger. And the guy, which by the way, it's also just impossible to cook like a perfectly medium well, or it's like 2 minutes, and all of a sudden you've gone from this to this,
Oh, it does. Yeah, I mean,
like it's just kind of that's what it is, red or not. So I remember some table came, asked about their burger, and the one was like, yeah, I want my medium well. And he goes, yeah, because I'll take that towards medium. So I like typed that in, and the chef literally came out. And he goes, what are you doing? I was like, I had no idea what this was about. And he goes, we have 2 options, medium rare and well done. And he said, nothing else. If they don't want that, they can eat something else off the menu. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then once someone wanted like a different type of cheese, and he was same thing. He goes, no, no, no. You can take off anything. I will not change anything on this burger. I loved working for that guy because
But
he
that's the way you
knew,
want it.
yes, he knew
And
what
then you-
was good. And he
you
was
can
like,
be consistent that way.
100%, because
Right.
he basically said, I can't guarantee you that this is going to taste anywhere near as good as what I know it can if you make these changes.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
And plus, when there's a lot of people coming in
Yeah,
with
which there
all the
was.
stupid
There
different
was.
variations,
Yeah,
you're slowing down the production.
100%.
So
100%.
But once again, assholes.
Yeah. Well, Assholes is a great. Eggs were a great place to stop, but I think Assholes is also a really good one. So, and
Absolutely.
about an hour and 5 minutes is probably the
Yeah.
tip top of what most people can stand to listen to for this long.
If you like good perversion, they both go.
They do. I was going to say. I was like, well, they're actually they're not unrelated. They actually have a weird history together sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll talk to a doctor next time about that.
All right, we'll bring him in.
Anyways, well, pleasure. Thanks. I'm glad you got
It
to
was
sit
awesome.
down. Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Always fun talking to you.
Definitely.
So I would talk to this guy like this if this camera weren't here, which is why he's here and why the camera's on,
Yeah.
because this is pretty much what it's like if I just go driving around with this dude.
Well, next time we'll actually have a list of maybe topics to keep us more focused.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him about a new book he's reading about John Lennon and Yoko Ono's confidant and some music
Elliot
shit.
Menz, yeah.
Man, I really wanted to talk to you about just Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys dying. That was
Well, just to quickly end it.
Go ahead.
So my daughter was here, and she's always because she knows how much I like music, and she loves it now too. So she's really into vinyl. So she's looking up, top 50, top 100 albums of all time, and Pet Sounds comes up by the Beach Boys, right? Which is considered their, best album. Usually, most people consider at least top 10 of all time.
Was that their first or second album?
Oh no, this was 1965, so this is well into their establishing themselves. But it started with Rubber Soul with the Beatles. Brian Wilson hears it and he wants to kind of top that. But I said to my daughter, I said, I've never liked the Beach Boys. I think they really suck, except Brian Wilson is their genius, and they wouldn't be anything without Brian Wilson. 2 hours later, it came across that he was dead.
No.
And I'd never talked to my daughter about Brian Wilson, because I really don't.
Probably hadn't thought of Brian Wilson in how long?
Just a quickly. There it is.
Oh, all right.
There you go.
Let me show this. This is cool.
So I played it just the other day in kind of for him, but that's their piece de resistance.
Wouldn't it be nice? Damn.
But God only knows. That's such a amazing song. But
I love the work that used to go into album covers. Like, what a weird little thing this is.
Oh, it's there's no other way, man.
Yeah, so cool. I miss when CDs did well for a while, where although it was smaller, you at least had the fold out. Some of them did do some cool creative shit with that, But just the one album cover was always really neat.
So maybe the next time,
we'll deeper dive into some of these things.
Some vinyl, and just why vinyl?
Yeah.
And is it better? Does it sound better? The answer is yes.
I was gonna say, are you going to tell them now what you really feel? You're gonna wait till next time.
But next time we'll go into why you should own vinyl, collect vinyl, have a record player, no matter what it is. But,
I love that.
Right,
well, otherwise, good talking to you, man.
All right. Cheers.
Yes, sir.
Till next time, man.
Thank everybody for listening, and hope you enjoyed.